Happy Monday, everyone. This is Martha with Nature Niche, and this week I want to talk to you about little bluestem, a nice native perennial grass. Fall is a great time to go out and appreciate our native grasses. If you happen to live near our store in Midland, Michigan, I suggest heading out to Chippewa Nature Center. Their Meadow Mouse Trail and the Power Line Corridor has a wildlife habitat council project with lots of native grasses in it, and also their wetlands trail, which actually includes a fair bit of upland prairie. So that's a great place to get out. Little bluestem, known as Schizocerium scoparium, or previously known as Andropogon scoparius, is one of the most widely distributed native grasses in North America. It is one of the 4 tall grass prairie dominant species, along with big bluestem, Indian grass, and switchgrass. And it is a prairie species in Michigan. Its habitat often includes jack pine plains, sand dunes, shores, sand prairie, and sort of the remnants of open oak savanna. You'll also find it on the dolomite pavements, also known as alvar on Drummond Island. And you can find it in sandy old fields, open sites along railroads and roadsides. This happens to be a little kind of upland area next to a wet meadow along the Pine River. And in other states, you'll find it in different kinds of prairie: hill, gravel, sand, black soil, and clay prairies, scrubby barrens, rocky slopes, sandy savannas, hilltop glades, and sand dunes. As far as cultivation goes, the species prefers full sun and mesic to dry conditions, and it'll tolerate a wide range of soil types, which is nice: clay loams, gravel, sand. It does best in the less fertile soil types because there's decreased competition from taller vegetation. It gets 2 to 3 feet tall if it's really happy, especially out in the true tallgrass prairie, more like 4 to 5 feet tall. And it is a clump forming warm season grass. It has a C4 metabolism, and you'll see most of its development happen in the warm weather of summer and early fall. It has excellent drought resistance and fall color and texture, as you can see here. And the stems don't get matted down over the winter like a lot of other grasses. It's conspicuously upright through the winter, and that fall color I mentioned can be tan, brown, to even a wine colored red, just depending on the population. As far as identification goes, it is a densely tufted grass at the base, as you can see here, and its root systems are fibrous and they're short rhizomatous, forming those clumps, and they can go as deep as 5 feet down into the ground as well as horizontally. The stems are tan or red-brown, round and hairless. Leaf blades are narrow, only about 1/4 of an inch. Let's see some of those right here. 1/4 of an inch wide to 10 inches long. They're light green to a blue-green, depending on how glaucous an individual or waxy an individual plant is. And they're hairless to slightly hairy. The nodes are often swollen, and at a distance they'll look like patches of red along the stem, and the ligule, where the leaf meets the stem, is small, white, and membranous. So the inflorescence of this native grass is composed of several ascending racemes, each 1.5 inches to 3 inches long. But the stalks that they're on, the peduncles, can be of varying lengths to give you a much larger overall inflorescence. The central stalk, called a rachis, of the raceme tends to zigzag back and forth between pairs of spikelets, and a spikelet is a grass's floral unit. and those are on opposite sides of each other, and each pair has a fertile spikelet that is sessile, and the internal parts, one has a long on, so they look kind of spiky, and then a sterile spikelet on a slender pedicel. So a pretty intricate floral arrangement. It blooms in August for 1 to 2 weeks, and it's cross-pollinated by the wind. The seeds mature in early fall, and they are both wind and animal dispersed. And as far as wildlife support goes, it's a very important native grass species. It's the larval host for several species of skippers, including dusted cobweb, of towhee, Indian, crossline, and swarthy skippers. And it's important to our native bees and other pollinators by providing nesting material and structure for our native bees, pollen, and perches for all sorts of insects to sun themselves. The foliage is eaten by grasshoppers, which themselves create a really important food source for our insectivorous birds. And the foliage is also eaten by prairie walking stick, leaf mining beetles, spittlebugs, plant hoppers, and leaf hoppers. And songbirds like to eat the seeds, especially in winter. Species like field sparrow, tree sparrow, the dark-eyed junco I talked about last week, and lots of other small songbirds and upland game birds. And it provides a really important nesting and roosting habitat structurally for grassland ground nesting birds. The foliage is also palatable to larger hooved mammalian herbivores like bison and elk, as well as domestic cattle, and it's often used for hay in native hay fields. This species is really great for using in meadow and prairie seedings and other mixed native species plantings, both from an ecological restoration benefits perspective and for its aesthetic charm. It's drought tolerant and it's quick to establish, which makes it great to use for bank and slope stabilization projects. It's really pretty along urban trail projects and for roadside erosion control because of its compact form, deep root system, and its beauty. It's also unlikely to be browsed by deer. It does require grazing or occasional mowing or prescribed fire to help regenerate and decrease woody plant competition on some sites. In this community park, we're working on controlling autumn olive and keeping it open so plants like the little bluestem can flourish. And the root systems are so dense and deep, they help improve soil health by increasing infiltration of water and the flow of oxygen downwards, decomposing and increasing organic matter, improving soil structure, and providing food for many soil microorganisms. It also is great on really tough infertile sites to get established and improve site conditions so that other species can also colonize. So I hope you take the opportunity, get out this fall, enjoy our native grasses, and take a minute to enjoy a nice stand of little bluestem.